Well, welcome back everyone to Sonora Spring Zoo. Hope you guys are all having the most wonderful of wonderful days. My name is Leaf and it's so great to have you guys back over here as we get started on a lovely little prairie dog habitat. Yes, I'm super excited to get into this. So in case if you guys are new here, welcome. I don't know why you're joining at the prairie dog habitat, but you picked the most wonderful episode to stop by. Sonora Spring Zoo is our zoo based in Southern California, maybe Arizona. I'm pretty sure it's in California. And it's a lovely little desert zoo. I really wanted to build one like this for the longest time. Tried a while ago, but got a little bit too big for my britches, so I really wanted to scale it a little bit back down and build something that's a little bit more in my pace. So Sonora Spring Zoo features so many different animals that live in prairies, grasslands, rocky outcrops, and stuff like that. And we try and emulate their habitats as naturally as possible throughout here, as well as a few thematic elements throughout here as well. So today we are building for the lovely little prairie dog, which is an animal I was super excited to build for. And their habitat actually got a lot more bigger than I expected, but I'm very satisfied with it in the end. Originally, I really wanted it to be supernatural, but I think we went for a little bit more of a Western theme in here, which is very fun to play with indeed. Prairie dogs are some of my favorite animals to build for in the game, as is all the other small animals. They're always such a blast to build for. And yeah, that's really it, my friends, for the intro. So let's kind of talk about the process throughout here. So you can see I already developed my kind of palette from before. I developed these fences before Sonora Spring Zoo even was started to be worked on. I made these fences about a week before I got access to the Grasslands pack. And yeah, I'm just super satisfied with them. You can find them on the workshop. They are in the description down below, in case if you guys do want to check that out. But yeah, I was just super excited to build for these guys because we are integrating two different viewing platforms into these habitats, really. We get one that looks up from that pathway up there from about the wombats and like the butterfly gardens. And we got one that kind of follows through from the soon-to-be penguin habitat, as well as the kind of like savanna area. So I'm essentially working throughout here, just trying to figure out how to actually integrate these guys into their habitat. And I'm just adding the fence down there, just making sure that our animals are able to actually access the habitat. And I'm doing a whole bunch of different techniques in here, so I apologize if it's going a little bit too fast for you. I explained some of this stuff in my previous videos if you do want to check those out. If you want some like more detailed explanations as to some of my processes. But the rocks that I'm using are these stalactite rocks that we got in the Twilight pack, as well as mixed with some of the faux trees, as well as some of the temple pieces from the South America pack, as well as, I know, we mix a whole bunch of different things together. It just looks super awesome in the end. As well as the desert rocks from base game. Essentially, when you mix these pieces together, imagine it like you're painting. If you're trying to make a very specific shade of green, you're going to use some different shades of blue, you're going to use some different shades of yellow, you might even throw a red in there just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of twang. But in the end, it results in whatever you really want it to result in. And the best part about this is that you could always try, you could always experiment, and that's the coolest thing ever. So I did need to make these guys a little holding area. That's something I really want to kind of like, you know, push forward in Sonora Spring Zoo is realism, or at least implying it in some areas. I'm not going to do too much backstage work throughout here. I might be doing it in between here and there, just making sure that I fill out those areas. But predominantly, I really want to make sure that logistically, does this place make sense? Yes. Functionally, probably not. You guys should look below the map. It's a total mess. But I really wanted to give these guys just a little bit of like a saloon kind of holding area. A lot of the times when you see prairie dog habitats, sometimes they're very simple, but other times they're like some of the most like weirdest thing ever. So let me just look up Alamo York Zoo prairie dog habitat. Yeah, sometimes you get some very intricate prairie dog habitats, and other times you get this one, which is what we see over here at York's Wild Kingdom in Maine. Not really the best places, but it's just a super funny habitat that always makes me smile, even though it's not really the best one. I just really like silly theming like that. I really like intricate theming, and a lot more culturally sensitive theming as well. Just theming in general in Planet Zoo is just super awesome to do no matter what. So you can see I'm using those rocks still just to really make sure that I make this, you know, as climb proof as possible for the little prairie dogs. So that would probably be one of the points of contention that we would want to make sure is taken into account for those little silly little dudes. Just making sure that they're not able to actually escape through that little part of the habitat is very important. So I really want to account for that. And also working on this little kind of like holding area, making sure that it's thick enough on all sides to the point where it actually makes sense, and that it could kind of support itself. And another thing I'm doing throughout here is adding this little curb. It's less a curb, more so like a kind of walkway you could kind of sit on, I guess. So I'm using the same piece for that and our curbing. I really do like the black outline. It's super simple. It's just the plaster piece as well as the I think it might be like the ceiling rod or like the ceiling fan rod from the, what was it, European pack, I think it was. Just a really nice thin piece that really looks really good. I don't know. I just really like it. Just serves itself as, you know, a nice little barrier from the actual curbing itself to the kind of asphalt pathway that we're working on. I don't know. I kind of like it, so that's why I use it. So I kind of break these pieces up a little bit more, just make sure that it works with the fences as well. And I really wanted to make sure, especially with these fences, that the prairie dogs would not be able to escape, but that tiny little gap over there is small enough to the point where they would not be able to escape. Prairie dogs, they are chunky, but looks can be deceiving. They are rodents, and rodents can squeeze into very tight areas. But given the fact that that's like barely half an inch off the ground, I'm sure they wouldn't be able to even squeeze their skulls throughout there. So yeah, that's really it. Adding a few of these dry oak pieces, or rather, like, you know, the recolored ones. Okay, how do you guys feel about that? Okay, this is probably coming out like way after the fact, and I'm not sure if they would have fixed it at that point, but how do you guys feel about the recolor of the buffalo grass, of that dry oak grass and stuff like that? I don't know how I feel about it personally. I'm still hoping to put out like a remaster mod out for them, just because I kind of originally like their original texture, which was a little bit more red, which brought a whole new kind of different color to the kind of palette. We don't really have too many red foliage pieces, so anytime we got one, I was super excited. So I don't really know. Talking about the habitat itself, however, though, adding a whole bunch of foliage throughout here are drin grasses, both dry and wet, I guess, natural drin grass. Just making this area feel a little bit more foliage than other areas, because they would kind of dig up some areas, but they would leave some areas alone. I really wouldn't integrate any like pipes or tubing into the actual rock work, but instead I would put down, like, at least in theory, there's like a concrete floor and then layers of sand and the faux rock work around that, just to help this area feel like a little bit more concrete, pun completely intended, of course, as a way for the prairie dogs to at least enrich themselves by digging, maybe build a few burrows underground, as well as show off some of their natural abilities for the guests themselves. Also doing a little bit of light terrain work as well, just making sure that those grass areas feel a little bit more grassy. So I always like to do just a small twinge of grass right under those, just because it looks super awesome to begin with, and it also cleans it up just a lot more nicely. And also decorating the top of this kind of like storage unit barn, I guess, a little bit more with those tea crates. And I also add a little wagon wheel right up there too, because I think that looks super cute. And yeah, it just gives a really nice Western vibe over there. So I'm just super satisfied with that. And yeah, that's really it, my friends. We do a few small different kind of like bits and pieces around here. I throw that little bear up there as a little bit of a, not really a secret, I guess, but just because it looks busy enough to put up there that it looks good. I also add a little hose over there because they would probably want to wet down the habitat every so often, just make sure they have like enough wet sand to play with. or dig through. And also cleaning up that area, I should also probably talk about that. I do need to cover that up a little bit, or at least put like, you know, a staff only sign over there so that we don't have any guests going backstage or anything like that, because that would be kind of bad. We don't want any guests going backstage. But I did want to include some stairs up there that would access the wallaby habitat, the nocturnal house, and whatever else we have up there, the prairie dogs too, I guess. Because again, one of the things I want to focus on as we make our way throughout here is making sure that this zoo is following some kind of coherent, logical theming. And I also add a few things throughout here as well, such as leader signs, a few different branches, and of course, one of Masani's little animal doors. But that's really it, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the little brief cinematics that we have today. You guys are always the best. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I can't wait to see you all in the next episode of Sonora Springs Zoo. Take care and have the most wonderful of wonderful days. Goodbye now.